Hello, friends. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Share Report 2026 New Year. First video of the year. We actually have a special guest today, and I'm super excited to have her. So, let's see. She will be hopping on here pretty soon. But in the meantime, I wanted to say thank you all for a great 2025, for all of you who liked, subscribed to the channel, shared all the videos, all the things. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. It's never, ever, ever, ever lost on me how much support you guys bring. So let's see. Got a person here. Let me make sure that I have everybody on. Hello. So wait until everybody hops on here. One person. Hi, Kim.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thank you. Thank you again so much for joining and carving out time for this.
I am very grateful to be here.
Okay, awesome. So I just did the intro and everything. I was just welcoming everybody until we all got on here and all the good things. So I just wanted to preface today's video is something that is very dear and important to me. We all know all the things that's happening in Gaza to the people there, in regards to the I group. I like to call them the I group because, sometimes videos like to get shadow banned or flagged for certain things. So the I group, everybody here, the audience know who the I group is. Feel free to say the name of the group. It's perfectly fine. I just like to use codes. So anyway, so I wanted to preface here that Kim, I know Kim from like two years ago. She helped me with my health journey. Long story short, she actually does a lot of things in the Middle East, and she's actually done some humanitarian goodness efforts over there, and she knows the things that's happening. So I wanted to bring her on to ask some questions, to get her insight, and just to share just different things that she's experienced and to let us know. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave some comments. I'll pop them on and maybe she can answer if we have enough time. So I'm going to turn it over to you to let you do all the speaking.
No, I so appreciate you. And any questions you have at any point, just stop me and ask. I don't mind being interrupted at any time. I'll just give you some background as to how I ended up on this journey. For several years, about 12 years, I've been working on neuromuscular work, helping people heal chronic pain. Hold on, I'm just losing your link. There we go. Helping people with chronic pain. And a physical therapist out of the I group had been following me for years, and her father is a physician. And she had been following my work and shadowing basically what I do. And I was going to go to the I group and teach them how to do what I do in 2023. And so I'd been working with clients overseas virtually to help them heal issues such as multiple sclerosis and chronic nerve pain. And so I was very passionate about heading to that area in October of 23. Well, right when I was about to go there, October 7th took place. And that morning I checked on my friends in that part of the world and asked how they were, but they were in Shabbat, so they couldn't answer until later in the day. And they said, basically, I knew more than they did because they had been celebrating their holiday or, their day of rest. And once we did speak, they felt like their own government was involved in whatever happened on October 7th, because there's no way people got across the border with the amount of surveillance they have. And they had friends and family in the military, because pretty much almost everybody serves in the military there. And they had heard rumors that there had been multiple people warning of something happening on the 7th. And they had been told basically to stand down. And they were told, we'll have a meeting about it at like 8. And then I think the attack happened at 6. And so there were specific things orchestrated that the residents and citizens of that area felt their government was involved. But within a week later, I was reached back out to by these same individuals. They wanted help with helping soldiers heal that were hurt on that day. But they instantly changed in who the enemy was. And they believed that it was all on the Palestinians, and that it was not anything to do with their government, and that all Palestinians needed to be killed, murdered. So I have this physical therapist telling me that all 2.2 million people in Gaza needed to be killed, all their animals, and the area be burned. And when she said this, I was completely shocked because I couldn't envision someone that works with individuals for healing would believe that an entire group of individuals could be bad people, right? And that all of them deserve to be killed. Let's say there were 1,000 people that truly did something horrible on October 7th, even though we now know that there was multiple lies and propaganda that day to set up this current agenda. Let's say that truly happened. If I had someone up the road that harmed my family member, I would not go kill their entire family. I would want that one person held to justice, but I wouldn't kill their entire family. So when I tried to ask about this, she thought I was ridiculous and asking questions on how she could believe 2.2 million people deserve to die. And again, this was the good residents and citizens of the area thinking this. So envision the people that don't have as good of a heart, that aren't humanitarians, how they must feel, how little they look at life. And, you know, I grew up in an area that was predominantly KKK. We had the highest amount of lynchings per capita in my area back when that was, you know, a regular thing. And growing up where I grew up, that was evil. But speaking to this individual, I felt a greater sense of evil that I've ever experienced in my entire life. It was worse than anybody had ever encountered in my local vicinity that did grow up or were part of the KKK. And you know how evil and horrible they were. This was beyond that level of evil. So for me, I was like, okay, I didn't know what Gaza was at the time. I didn't understand anything about the dynamic, but I've been one of those people that have been stereotyped. Like when I was speaking out against the COVID vaccine, I was stereotyped as a threat against our country. You know, I was going to kill people's grandmothers because of that. And I was an anti-vaxxer. So I'm used to being stereotyped by speaking against the agenda. And I've always learned, even in the corporate world, there's no one whole group of people that suck. If there's an entire group that suck, it's typically the leader. So I wanted to start studying what this Palestinian story was and what Gazans were all about. And I had no idea what Zionism was. So when I worked with these individuals from the I group, Israel, I only knew them as individuals. I did not know their beliefs philosophically or politically. And once I started realizing that they believed they could take the land by force and that they were exploiting Judaism and that they've basically been torturing Palestinians and innocent Palestinians for several decades, I could no longer be involved in that. And so my friend at the time that I was working with, she said, Kim, I can't believe you're concerned about people you don't even know. You know us here. Why would you care about Gazans? You don't know any of them. I'm like, well, because they're human beings and more than half of them are children. So why would I condone murdering innocent children?
Right.
So, which again, did not make sense when you're talking about a physician, a physical therapist. Again, I couldn't understand how they could think that way. So when she said I didn't know anybody on the ground there, I made it my effort or my drive to find people on the ground in Gaza. And then I found them. And then once I decided I wanted to figure out how could I help people from Gaza since I couldn't get into Gaza. I was no longer going to dedicate my time trying to save individuals that thought it was okay to murder other people. So I decided to get to Egypt. And I found an American in Egypt that was running an outreach group. And he was looking for anybody that could basically get on the ground and help in any way, shape, or form. Because there was multiple people from Gaza, once that war and now genocide escalated, that were pushed out of Gaza into Egypt. And when they were in Egypt, they basically now became homeless. And so finding them homes, helping them figure out how to make money, feed themselves, or how to get support from healing after injuries from the war. That was the goal, how to even get them medicine. So this gentleman that was working from Florida in Egypt, a good friend of mine, Tina, and I decided to go over there and meet up with him. My goal was to help get rid of any chronic pain that any Gazan was dealing with that might have been injured in the war. It started with that, and I started helping a few individuals with pain, but then I started realizing how deep the problem was, that it really was about survival, period. Because just because they got out of Gaza didn't mean they were free, and it also didn't mean that they were going to be able to live with dignity or survive. And then they have family members still stuck in Gaza that they were trying to help, basically live and survive also. So I ended up becoming kind of anything I could be to help with migration, help find food, help raise money, help healing, whatever I could do to help them thrive. Because when you meet anybody from Palestine, you'll see the majority of them are very high functioning well-intended, very spiritual individuals that, and I might offend some people, that seem to be much more intelligent than most people, more intelligent than I would even call myself, because they have a high drive. They have a very intense drive to be educated and to do the right thing. And so when I was meeting, we're told that they're basically less than animals. That's what, sadly, what Zionists are trained to think of Palestinians as, not even as valuable as an animal. Well, the majority of individuals that I've helped that have been thrown into homelessness are physicians, neurosurgeons, psychotherapists, dentists. None of these individuals were just what you would think of as a terrorist. They were all very high functioning adults and families that were just wanting to live a peaceful quality of life and have the freedom to move the same way each of us Americans do. So that was a lot. Do you have any immediate questions that I can expand upon, or any experiences you want me to share?
Okay, so once you got to Egypt, you were saying you got to Egypt. How many visits have you had so far?
Okay, so probably about 30.
30,
since April of 24.
Okay.
So I've been to Egypt multiple times, and then some migration was open for them to get to Oman, because a lot of people don't realize that when a Gazan gets pushed out of Gaza into Egypt, they have no freedom still to move. They have no freedom to get jobs. Again, they're basically pushed into homelessness. So to try to help them get back to thriving individuals, you have to help them figure out a safe, legal migration route. And sadly, the US, Egypt, and Israel worked very good to cut out every agency possible to allow them to move around. So when I first got there, I started attempting to take people to refugee appointments, to get appointments with the UNHCR, the immigration group, the Palestinian embassy, the US embassy. Every single person declined any type of meeting with the Palestinian, because they were being banned and barred from our government to not allow any Palestinian to have an interview to be able to do the legal migration process. So when you experience that as a white American, and you're taking someone in a predominantly Muslim country to what's supposed to be their embassy, or their UNRWA, or again, UNHCR, the organizations that are supposed to protect them and help them, and they say, oh, sorry, no appointments for Palestinians. It was the most disgusting feeling I've probably felt the highest level of racism and bigotry I've ever seen in my entire life.
Okay. Another question I have, because it's come up, and we hear in corporate owned media, which I don't trust or believe, but there are some people that I speak to, that you speak to, that still trust in corporate owned media. And they were like, well, we hear a lot about Hamas this, Hamas that, and they blame things on Hamas. And they say, well, Hamas is blocking food. So in your experience, how is the food really? I mean, because we really want to know, are these people really getting food, or they're not getting food?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of everything. So let me backtrack. Palestinians as a whole do not support Hamas. They don't like Hamas. They're stuck with Hamas. Hamas was voted in and forcibly brought in between 2006, 2007. And that was before more than half of the Palestinians were even alive. So a lot of people think that this was just an elected group of people that the Palestinians want there, and Israelis think that the Gazans should just overthrow Hamas and take over, like we've ever done that in our own government to take them down. Israel hasn't even been successful in doing that with Netanyahu, for those that don't like them. But they think the Gazans should take down Hamas if they really don't want them there, even though they've been forcibly there since 2006, 2007. So Hamas, they don't love them, but they deal with them. Hamas does help. So in the West Bank, the PLO allows Israeli soldiers to go into any random Gazan's house, or not Palestinian's house, in the middle of the night, and can torture them at 2 a.m., can take them out of their homes, can take over their home at any time for a military drill. In Gaza, that doesn't happen. Hamas does protect Gazans from not having to go through that. So there's a positive in having Hamas, but as a whole, they don't prefer Hamas. And there's multiple resistance groups within Gaza that help protect the Gazans, or to try to defend their right to have life, to have their own property in an occupied area. But again, they're not the resistance and Hamas are not typically the ones keeping the food from the Palestinians. It's typically Israelis blocking the food from coming in. And the food is very scarce. So sometimes it comes in waves. But the hard part is when it does come in, the commissions to get money in to pay for food are so high, and the cost of the food is so high. Like one time, one chicken was $200.
Wow.
So even, and like, let's say we got donations for $1,000. The commissions could be anywhere from 40 to 60% to get that $1,000 into Gaza. So maybe they got $400 to $600 out of the $1,000, and then the one chicken cost $200. So when you're, or like a bag of flour might have been $50. So what was hard is even if there is food, the cost is so high or the availability is so slim that it's still not enough to feed the amount of Gazans that were there looking to survive. So they're giving them just enough scraps at this point for basic survival, but many Gazans have starved to death, or they have terrible side effects from malnutrition.
Right.
Because they're not able to actually get a full plate of food 3 times a day.
Right. Which is so sad. And I know you're very passionate about it because dealing with me, with people making sure they get very much nutrients and everything. Because I have heard just from listening to different independent news journalists how certain foods, not that I'm into potato chips, but, you know, things like potato chips and certain things that would kind of give people some sort of sense of fullness, a lot of different things were banned there. So I'm like, wow, it's purely amazing that people don't realize, because I think people look at it in a very abstract way, like, oh, we're here in America, because nothing right now is happening to here in America right now. And people kind of think, oh, those people, well, Hamas this, and, we're protecting our ally, Israel, the I group, however we want to say it, and things like that. So I think people are very blind to what's really happening in reality. That was the main reason why I wanted you to come on, because I know we see these people, like, I don't want to say celebrity news people, but people that are very well off and famous talking about, oh yeah, this is what happened in Gaza. But like everyday citizens that actually are doing work, I'm like, we really need to like bring it down to home so people can realize and not support the nonsense and believe in the lie that the Israel or I group are actually our allies, but you're not, because they don't bring any value to the table. They actually have been keeping us in foreign wars since a very long time. And I don't know if you've heard of this, the AI software called Where's Daddy. Have you heard of it before?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I recently, late last year, learned about it and was doing some research. It's Where's Daddy. There's another one called, I think, Lavender. I think it's called Lavender. And then there's another one that they call The Gospel, which I thought was like blasphemy, because like we know gospel means good news. And what they're basically doing to people with this software and targeting people is actually the opposite of good news, where they're actually harming, killing people. And like you mentioned, when I was doing my research on Gaza, like up to 50%, they're under 18 years old, and the rest of them are mostly women. So I just don't think people realize how awful this nation is. And what do you know about that whole, what I just mentioned, those 3 different software and AI?
Yeah, I know somewhat, a little bit about each of them, but one thing I can tell you firsthand from Gazans' firsthand experience, one main thing that they do is they'll have drones fly. Well, drones fly over 24/7 all the time, even before October 7th. That's what people don't understand. Israel had the highest surveillance on Gaza. They know every Gazan's name, every Gazan's phone number. They know everything about the border. Drones constantly surveil 24/7. Gazans always have to hear drones overhead just to sleep at night. But never were the drones so fierce as now. So what those drones will do, they will go to an area and they will play sounds like a screaming woman or a screaming baby, so that people run out to go save the baby or the woman, and then they shoot them all. Like literally, they make someone think there's someone out there hurting, and they go to help them. And it's just disgusting. And yes, these surveillance look for like when the daddy's going to be home, so that they can take out the entire family. They say, oh, this person is suspected to be a member of Hamas, so we have to blow them up. And then they take out there's entire family lines, like 120 people, grandmothers, grandfathers, grandkids, nieces, nephews, all taken out at one time because they're sheltering in one building together. and they've removed complete family lines from the generations just don't exist anymore.
Right.
And it's just and then if you talk to any of the physicians that have able to get into Gaza, they'll take a 2-year-old that's been sniped in the head twice. Like, okay, that's not a mistake. If you again, you're talking about a sniper and or AI drone driven attacks that specifically hit a 2-year-old in the head twice. And was that 2-year-old a member of Hamas? Well, what Israeli soldiers believe, because some of them have been my clients, and that's why I can tell you I have extremely good friends now from Gaza. I consider them family, and I still have people that I can't call my friends in Israel anymore, nor would I ever want to call them my friends, but I was extremely close to them as far as them being my clients. That when I brought up that you're killing a child, they believe that they're preventing a future terrorist by killing a 2-year-old. In my mind, I think about people like MLK and JFK and people that changed an entire culture by their voice. And I think, what if that 2-year-old grew up and completely changed the entire environment, but you assume everybody there is being trained as a terrorist? And that whole story about Gazans are trained from childhood to kill Jews, that is a bullshit lie. I can tell you every Gazan I've met with, again, they're just so immensely educated. The things they're held accountable to in their education and the strictness in their education to make them value school and their teachers is absolutely amazing. And there's nothing about killing Jews. In the Quran, they are commanded to respect Judaism and Christianity. All three of the religions are supposed to be respected, even though they believe slightly different. The only thing that any Gazan or Palestinian is against is Zionism. And that's because Zionism is exploiting Judaism through a political view and through basically the powers that be wanting to take over more land because they love the Gaza coast and they love the oil and they want to make it a great real estate investment. And they look at Palestinians as like lesser people. So things like eugenics are still in full function in our world. We just have labeled it slightly different, and then we stereotype an entire group of people. And then you have people like you and I that now all of a sudden, because we ask logical questions, my previous good friend in Israel, she's like, Kim, you're sounding very anti-Semitic. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm anti-Semitic because I asked you where the Gazans are supposed to go to when you drop the flyers. Because she said, we're the most moral army. We drop the flyers, letting them know we're coming. I said, you have them landlocked on 3 sides and then the sea. And if they go more than like a certain mile out in the sea, they get shot by the ships too. So I'm like, where do they run to? So because I asked her, well, okay, you drop flyers down, but then where do they go? She thought I was being anti-Semitic. So when you ask logical questions, you don't get logical answers. You basically get ad hominem, and then you're shut down. Anyway, it's just crazy. So where I was going with that is you or I now, by our media and by our government, would be called Hamas supporters. By being more pro-Palestinian, pro-life, now we're Hamas supporters. And they lumped everybody together. And now they're exploiting the protests that happen in the United States, trying to deem people that are speaking out for life and for Palestinians, the civilians, the innocent people, they're trying to now label us as Hamas supporters. So that way they can also make us as a threat to our country, just like they did if you were anti-vax during COVID. Exact same thing.
Exactly. Yes. So one of the things that you mentioned out about the child, which, hurts my heart. And, the last conversation we had, there was a young girl you had mentioned. And one of the things that I like to say to people is, me being a Christian, and there's lots of people that I know that are Christians. And I know you'll remember this, during BLM, whenever Black Lives Matter, when things were happening and people were like, Black Lives Matter. And then there were people that were saying all lives matter, right? And people were like all in an uproar because they were saying all lives matter, which is actually true. The premise for all lives matter is very true. Every single life matters. But when we're talking about Palestinians, it's completely different. It's like, oh, their life doesn't matter only because a certain group of people are involved. That's the reason why these people don't matter. And another thing that I always like to say, God being God, he created all of us. He starts life. He can take life. And I know you're familiar with the story of Jonah. And I was mentioning this to somebody because someone else said, about, the children are started out young to hate Jewish people. And I'm like, because I was very shocked that I was sitting next to a person that thinks, okay, you have to take out little children. And I was like, so shocked, like, unbelievable. Am I really around this many people that think it's okay? The reason I'm saying that is because even God, when he told Jonah to go to Nineveh and say, I'm going to destroy you, I'm going to destroy Nineveh, right? And so Jonah goes in and the people humbled themselves from the top. They humbled themselves, right? So and then Jonah was upset because he didn't like the Ninevites. But God's like, why are you upset? There are so many children. Basically, God was saying, there's so many people that can't discern between their left hand or their right hand, which meaning children, because children don't know the difference, Right. So even God, who has the authority to give and take life, was like, okay, you know what? These people changed, humbled. I'm not going to do this. There's lots of children there. And it's like, I think people understand innocence and what they're saying when they're actually condoning killing innocent life. And really, they're actually being fed lots of propaganda, because if they really, really dug, I would say I've been more educated in the last couple years on Zionism. I was never for like one group of people, like God's chosen. I was not into that. I knew the truth on that. I know the truth in that, but from the foreign policy side of things, I wasn't very educated. Like everyone else, Israel's our ally. In the last, I'd probably say 2.5 years, I've learned that's a big fat lie. I learned the different things that they have been doing behind the scenes and the things that they're doing now, just different things. And even I'm not condoning Venezuela, Maduro, anybody like that. I don't know a whole lot about him. I'm still educating myself on that, but I do know that he has spoken out against things that Israel was doing. So it all makes sense whenever like, oh, we're wanting to take out certain people. It's like, okay, what did they say about you that you don't like? So it's things like that have made me very much aware and awake when it comes to the I group, especially Zionism, which is infiltrated not only in politics, but also in religion, and people who don't really understand scripture at all. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, in your 30 visits that you've gone to Egypt to help humanitarian efforts, what is the worst thing that you have seen that you came across that was like the worst, even till now?
See, the hardest thing is the worst is in Gaza. So we're sheltered still from the worst, but I still feel it deeply because of the people I'm connected with in Gaza. And I choose to feel it and see it so that I don't make it out of sight, out of mind. I do have to be careful on how much I absorb it, because I could get physically ill and I have to keep myself up to be able to serve others. So in Egypt, how do I express this? You'll see a variety of everything, but it's still kind of a cleaned up version by the time I get to it. So for example, we went to a hospital one day to bring toys and gifts to people in the hospital. Right. And when you see a 12-year-old boy that is in a wheelchair with only one arm left, and he has like a little bag or purse over his body to kind of carry some things around, and you give him some just balloons that he could fill up and blow up for joy, to see a 12-year-old with only having one limb left and get happy about some balloons that haven't even been filled and give joy and a smile to you. Yeah. And then there was families sitting on the floor, because many people are still living in the hospital because they had no homes and maybe one of their family members was being treated. Well, there's a group of Palestinians sitting on the floor that I knew they were just eating and having dinner together, but I didn't know that half of them had no legs, because I couldn't tell until they went to get up and transferred to their chair. And to see them have a better attitude and more loving kindness to even Americans that are actually part of the reason that they're in this position.
Right.
Honestly, it's hard to see. You're grateful that they're accepting of you, but it's hard to see them treat you better than some of the people that you know back home. I literally had people basically threaten to disown me because I went to Egypt and because I was speaking out, saying I was just, worshiping the Muslim faith and not actually caring about Americans and Christians. People that have known me for 30 years that I've helped prevent surgery. I'm like, sayonara, because I don't do cults and I don't do racism. I don't do bigotry. I'm sure at some point I've been guilty of it, but the more educated I become and the more I'm aware of my own ignorance, I change my course. And so what was the hardest thing but not, I'd say, the most grotesque, and I'd shared with you, and we'll try to keep it together today. There was one of the gentlemen from Palestine. He's a psychotherapist, and he has a family of 8. And he did a post on this community group of the 8 things they needed for a sustainable life in Egypt. And I thought it was the most well-written post. And so I reached out to him because a lot of outreach groups, their intentions are good, but they're not always effective at actually creating a good outcome. So when this one Gazan put out what they need, I was in agreement, and I wanted to meet with him to see how do we make that happen. And another Gazan I became very close with that I was helping with migration, we went to meet with this gentleman. I said, okay, how can we work together to make these 8 things happen? Well, he told me at home, he had his children, and he had a 10-year-old girl that there was a bomb that went off by her in Gaza. And she ran from the bomb, but there was already a fire on the ground, and she ran through the fire, and it burned her side. So he told me that she had burns on her side, scars, that she was getting treated, but she was having severe pain every night. Well, I had brought things with me to help with that. And again, I want you to think of a 5th grader, like a 10-year-old 5th grader. Like, there's some beautiful little 5th graders that we see, and Palestinians are no different than any other 5th grader that we might know, a beautiful 10-year-old little girl. Right. And then when I went to help the 10-year-old girl, her older brother that was 17 there, he had been hit with one of the white phosphorus bombs, and he had some of his skin burned from the white phosphorus, and he had one of his wrists hurt in the process too. So I was looking at those wounds. I had some special essential oils with me. And so what I did for the little girl, I did a special muscle testing like I did with you, and I helped relieve the scar tissue. I did a special scar release and gave them some oils. Well, then we came back a few days later to check on her, and her older sisters that were really working hard to practice their English told me that was the first night she went to bed with no pain. Well, it was okay. I felt good about what I did. That was my plan. But when we went to leave, and she went to hug me goodbye, she didn't want to let go, and she wouldn't let go. You know, she thought like she was going to be abandoned again, or if it was somebody was actually going to make her feel good. But I held it together while she was hugging me. But as soon as I walked out, me and my other friend that was with us, we lost it, because that was just one little girl. Like, there's so many more. And it's not fixable. So you just do it. You just do what you can. So I think about, like, people know how I am locally. Like, I can't leave an animal to be, if I see something, I have to help. And there is no way I could turn away and be like, okay, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go back to my normal life. Like, you're forever changed. Then I came home, and my girls are like, you're going back, right? And I said, yes, because it was supposed to be one trip. But I told my girls I'm going to go back every month until the genocide's over. Well, I thought maybe 6 months, 8 months. Well, here we are. It's been more than 2 years, and it's still going on. And so, and again, it's still just as bad as in that same family. We've been working on a project to help that family of 8 get sustainable income and help them get out of Egypt and get somewhere where they're actually respected. And I was just messaging him. Luckily, with the sale of my home, I was able to give them a little bit of a donation, but there's no sustainable plan yet. And again, these were professionals. His children were in nursing school. He's a psychotherapist that helped children. And so I'm working now on how do I get them safe, long-term housing and food and salary, or help them move. And again, this wasn't my job, but I'm pretty good at finding resources and connecting people, and I just can't look away. I wouldn't leave a batch of kittens on the side of the road, let alone entire, amazing, high-functioning people that are just really good humans.
Right. So because charities are always one of those things, do you know of any charities or places that are worth giving to help those people?
So there's a couple of things I recommend. I was going to work on a nonprofit, but I know right now in the U.S., anything that's supporting Palestinians they're trying to shut it down or impact it or make you look like you're supporting terrorism. So there's a couple of things. There's a couple sites that I can send to you that are reputable, or I can help get it to direct families and show you where it came from. So you can either get it to me, I can get it to them. Or I'll share some sites that you can donate to directly. For me, I have mostly just donated directly to specific families I come in contact with, because I get to see exactly how that money is used and see the immediate benefit to saving that person's life. Because some of the Palestinians I work with, they've been able to get money into people in Gaza and keep them alive this entire time while other people have succumbed to malnutrition. And then also in Egypt, there's multiple families I've been helping in some way through Egypt throughout the whole time to help them sustain their life. Like one gentleman that I've done a podcast with, Dr. Sofian, he's an internal medicine physician, and his 3 sons, I think 2 are dentists and 1 is in occupational therapy. They're all sitting with no job, just sitting in an apartment. Like, just, can you imagine being a physician, a nurse, a dentist, and you're just sitting there all the time for 2 years now without being able to work? Because in Egypt, they can't just start working because they came over there. So it's broken on every single angle you could possibly think about. And the main reason our government and Israel demonize these other groups that are speaking out with the truth is they don't want Americans to know the truth. They don't want Christian Americans to know the truth, because this wouldn't continue to happen if we truly know the truth. So they try to shut down anybody that could truly get the word out. And that's why they don't want Palestinians in our country, not because they're dangerous, but because the truth will get out. Like, as soon as you meet one Palestinian family, you're going to be forever changed the rest of your life. How they're going to feed you, how they treat you. Every American that I brought to Egypt has been forever changed on how they view Gaza and how they view Palestinians. And if they could change it, they would immediately change what's happening to each of them in Gaza and in the West Bank. And that's the thing, this whole thing about Hamas. Hamas is not in the West Bank, and we're killing just as many people, innocent people in the West Bank as we are as in Gaza. It's just a little bit more subtle than what you're seeing in Gaza.
Right. So I know you talked about, people disowning you, or, not wanting to have anything to do with you because you're anti this group of people or whatever, which, I personally have gotten to the point where it's like, okay, whatever, I'm going to ignore you. That's nonsense. It's just an excuse, and you have no evidence to back up that. Especially when we're talking about, even if I don't care if everybody there was like all men. I don't care. It's just the fact that they are harming so many people. And it just so happens to be that, like we were saying, 50% of them are women and children or more. So, but success stories that I would like to hear about Americans. You mentioned that you've taken some Americans there. I would love to hear some success stories, because I think the last time we spoke, you said that there were people that you had spoken with, and they're like, oh no, until they heard one of the mainstream people mention it, if they'd gone there themselves. And it's like, I can't remember who said it. They're like, if you want Americans to believe something, put it on TV. And I'm like, wow, how shallow can they? But it's true, because Americans will believe it if it's on TV. And it's surprising, before I let you answer that, it's so surprising the people that I speak to that I'm a third of their age, or either half their age, or they could be my grandmother. Okay. And I'm like educating them on things that happened the year I was born. Okay. And things that are happening, like, wow, you should know this. Do you know this? And I'm sending them all of this information, trying to get them to be anti-war and just at least like people, that kind of thing. And it's like, you really should know this. You should be telling me this, and they're saying millennials are horrible. I'm like, wow, I'm trying to teach a boomer about some things that happened when they were full-grown adults and, their kids were out of school. So I would love to know some positive, success stories of people that saw the light when it came to the Zionism, Gaza whole thing.
Yes, for sure. Well, the one gentleman I told you unfriended me on Facebook. He just recently came back a year later, friended me again, and said, I'm so sorry. I thought you had lost your mind. I thought you were off your rocker. But now I see, I'm learning about how bad Israel is. And again, it was mostly because Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens have started to shed some light on this stuff. The same thing when Candace Owens started to shine more light on the vaccine issue. A lot of things I've been saying for 15 years, they started to believe now. Like you said, it has to be mainstream, or has to be on the media for someone to get it. But no, I would say that I had a woman in her 80s that recently came to me, and she's like, Kim, I realized after I saw you speaking on Facebook that I had been lied to my entire life. She goes, I never really gave much thought to that part of the world and just assumed we support Israel and we pray for Israel. She goes, but after what you posted and then I researched, she goes, I have been lied to my entire life. And in her 80s, she changed her perception. The 4 individuals that I took to Egypt with me, actually 5 now, but 4 specific that we took for a trip, I would say they weren't passionate one way or the other. They were just ignorant to the whole area. And as soon as they came to Egypt and they met Palestinians in person, I mean, multiple Palestinian families that were technically homeless or in transit home situations, they fed us beautiful meals. They found ways to host us with what they had. And so to see, again, like how religious and disciplined they are, and how there is nobody makes us walk 6 feet behind them. We do not have to wear a hijab to go into their house. We were not shunned because we're white American Christian women. I've not been raped or attacked anywhere. I've actually felt the safest in Egypt and in Oman than I ever really have in America. I've actually been harmed many more times by people that I know and by people that claim to be Christian. So it's scary, again, the way we stereotype groups of people. But I have seen profound successes in people waking up. But it's just like everything, just like with the COVID vaccine, the COVID protocol, it's just not fast enough. There's going to be thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives lost, millions of lives lost.
Right.
And where I kept being so passionate with Americans, when you leave this level of evil unchecked and you blindly support it because you think that's what the Bible's telling you to do, or because you believe the media talking heads, or you believe our elected government officials, and you leave that level of evil unchecked, I can assure you it is coming for us. It's coming for us. Gaza is just a testing ground. They want to see what they're able to get away with before they put more on us. And people don't realize they're already doing the majority of it to us in a much more subtle way. They're getting us to kill ourselves off with food, the way we torture our bodies, the vaccinations. Again, the ones they say that are bad but are still available to us, it's all just a show. It's all a distraction.
Right.
And so the majority of people that are being demonized, all the countries, Iran, Yemen, all these areas that are being demonized, it's because they don't want the truth out there, and because they're trying to create the greater Israel. They're trying to infiltrate that land, colonize it. And so they have to demonize and dehumanize a group of people in order for us distracted, busy, exhausted Americans to just say, okay, go ahead and send my tax dollars there to kill people.
Right. Exactly. And one of the things that I have learned so much, even some politicians that I think are doing a great job for us, you know, I've learned that even some of the money that they've received, I know you've heard of AIPAC before. So there's a lot of AIPAC supported candidates out there. And it's like, wow, it's like very few of them that don't support them. And the ones that do, I don't really align with them in some social ways, but all the other stuff, like what they're saying and speaking out against what's happening, like we were mentioning here over in Gaza, I agree with them there. So I just like, well, A+, hats off to them for speaking up, because there's so many people that I think because of money, they know things are wrong. They have to know what is happening over there is wrong. But because of money, because like if you gave me $1 million and, you know, and you're pushing my way through, you know, my career, whatever, I'm going to feel a sense of loyalty to you. But like, let's say, you know, God forbid you did something terrible or did something terrible to another country. Well, I'm going to be a little hesitant, you know, to speak out against you, even though I personally think it's wrong. I think it's politically wrong. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't support it. But you know, pushed me through and gave me money and supported my career and, you know, pretty much held me up on my own. So I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to kind of push it under the rug and say, well, you know, we have to do this because, you know, these children may grow up to be like this, or, you know, they have to defend themselves. And someone really smart, like you opened up with, said, okay, fine. You know, everybody has the right to defend themselves. But what's wrong is if someone comes to break in your house, okay, you arrest the person that broke in your house. You don't go after his wife, his kids, his grandmother, his ancestors, and future generations of people. So that's the part that people are missing. Okay. So I like that you opened up with that. And someone else said the same thing, that analogy, and it makes so much more sense, you know, about yes, target the person. But like you mentioned, it's really not really about Hamas. It's really not. It's about making their borders and Zionism in general. So yes,
right. That like within a month of October 7th, the Israelis had shirts made, save the date, and like that they were going to be living on the Gaza coastline. Right. And so they planned to take over the entire land from the beginning. And that's why the whole message was pushed that we just got to get rid of them all. Like the one woman I was close with said, they've been a thorn in our side for years. We should have never dealt with, I don't know, what is the Oslo Accords or whatever it was. And so, and she told me, I tell my kids, be nice to them. But we learned this, some saying in Hebrew that you can't trust a Muslim. They'll wait 30 years to stab you in their back. And so I'm like, wait a minute, who's being taught to hate who? And I'm like, she's like, I tell them to be nice to the Muslims. I'm like, you don't see that sounds like bigotry. So I'm like, she didn't even, it's because she's lived this and it's been her norm. She didn't even hear how she sounded. So she's like, Kim, you're so uneducated because you haven't even stepped foot in Israel. If you came here, you would see. I'm like, no, that's actually why I can look at this in a much more unbiased level, because I didn't go through your whole, what is it called? Aliyah or whatever. Aliyah, whatever they have to get in order to be converted to Zionism, be able to go to Israel, they have to go through this whole process. And I'm like, I was never indoctrinated with any of these processes or any of these religions. I can just look at this from research, and because I'm very much with what I do for my career, I have to be extremely good at research. I have to pay attention to patterns. I have to look at like what creates what. And again, I don't believe you could take a group of any 2 million people and call them all bad. That's just not statistically possible, especially with more than half of them children. And I'm like, where are all these pro-life people that are Christians? You're pro-life if it's in someone's belly and they can't make it, but you're not pro-life if it's children that you think are no big deal because they're on the other side of the world, and supposedly the Bible promised this 3,000 years ago to them. Now, real people, Orthodox Jews, do not believe they should ever take the land by force. They believe that when their Messiah comes, land would be given to them. They do not support Zionism. And when I was talking to a couple of my Zionist previous friends, before I knew what Zionist was, they told me that they had to live in Israel because it was safer for Jews. And I'm like, how? I said, and these are Americans. They all had homes in New York and Colorado. And I mean, again, they had their own space here. Actually, most of them were very privileged, and they went and took land in Israel, well, from Palestine. And they're like, well, we are safer here. I'm like, I have multiple friends and clients that are Jews that I've never seen them be attacked. I didn't even know they were Jew. I just love them for who they are. I don't care what their religious beliefs are, what their background is. I'm like, I don't hear of people practicing Judaism getting attacked every day in America. And many of my Jewish friends are some of the most successful that I know in America. So I'm like, how are they unsafe? I said, you don't think moving to Middle Eastern country and killing people that have lived there for hundreds of years is going to increase lack of safety for the Zionists and or the Jews? And then what happens is Zionism makes such a bad name for Judaism. It makes Jews unsafe all over the world because they believe that's how all Jews are. And it's really those practicing Zionism. So I explained to my friend, if you go kill 2 million people in the Middle East, how is that going to increase safety for Israelis or Jewish people? Like, it doesn't make much sense to me, you know. But of course, that was me being anti-Semitic. And she's like, Kim, we were really close during COVID, but just like people couldn't talk to me until after COVID was over, I think we'll just have to not be friends until this war is over. Then we can reconvene our relationship. I'm like, no, I don't do cults. We will never reconvene this relationship.
Exactly.
So that's not going to happen. Yeah. But anyway, so it's been an eventful, exhausting, rewarding 2 years.
Yeah, that is so true. Well, one thing that she did say, there's a lot of people that we were talking to during the whole COVID thing that I know personally that I had was like, please don't get it. Please don't get the vax. Please don't get it. And then now all these things are happening and they're like, oh, I wonder if it was because I'm like, and you don't want to hurt people's feeling because some terrible things are happening to people who received it. So you're just kind of sitting there like, well, I told you, and I told you about this, and I'm also telling you about this. So like, what is it going to take for you to listen? Because obviously I'm educated on some things. I may not be like, know everything, but I'm pretty educated on stuff. And so far I have been right on the last 3 things I've mentioned to you. So hopefully people will come around, but I think unfortunately it may be a little too late because Israel's ruling unfortunately is ruling the White House and it's getting us into more wars. And
no, sure. It's scary. We're going to see how it all unfolds. The most difficult part is we have to be okay to stand apart from the crowd. And sadly, the same way people were lost during the time of crucifixion of Jesus, the majority of the public was cheering on the crucifixion of Jesus because they were fitting into the crowd. That has not changed. 85% of the population kind of conforms to the ways of the world and doesn't even know it. They think they're resisting, but they don't understand they're still conforming to man's rule or man's propaganda or man's indoctrination. But they just don't realize it yet. And I understand. Again, I knew nothing about Gaza, nothing about Zionism until October of 2023. And I only know what I know because I chose to have passion. I didn't just look the other way.
Right.
When I hear certain things, it triggers, certain, wheels inside me that require research. And again, I could have just ignored it. I did not ignore it though. And you can't, once you see, you can't unsee. And if you do, if you know what you know and you do look away, I do believe we pay a very hard spiritual price. Yeah. And so maybe for them, the people that don't understand yet, maybe ignorance will be bliss. But I cannot honestly believe anybody that claims to be Christian can twist any word to say it's okay to kill children, that it's okay so that way this group of people can have land. I just don't agree with that. And again, think about it in America. Let's say we have how many guns in America? So let's say somebody came back from a Native American family and said, my family owned this 3,000 years. I'm going to come kill all your family and take this house that you purchased. What are we going to do? We're going to say, no, this is my land. I don't care if someone lived here 3,000 years ago. You don't get to have my land because your specific religion or shaman beliefs say that you should have this land. We would fight, we would resist. And that's what people don't understand. Palestine is occupied land. This is not a war. They don't have a military. They don't have F-16s. They don't have drones. They do have some makeshift rockets and some guns. But again, they don't have a full-blown military and the jets flying over top and billions of dollars coming from the U.S. And again, think about it. This was only a 25-mile strip of land. That's the other thing that a lot of people, we are at large in the U.S. Geographically ignorant, and I don't mean any offense to anybody that's excellent at this. For me, I was geographically ignorant, and I didn't realize when they would show an area on the news, they zoom in and it looks like it's this larger piece of land, like a full country or maybe a state as large as California. Gaza is only the size of a 25-mile strip. It's like the size of Tampa or smaller. So imagine, they said, what is it, equivalent of 3 Hiroshimas on this area? Imagine that happening in Tampa and you're locked in and you can't get out and they just keep shooting at you, bombing you, driving tanks, soldiers coming in into one 25-mile strip. It's literally like a Hunger Games test ground and constant torture. They start to think they're going to get relief and then it comes again. And they never know when it's coming. Like, how do you sleep at night between bombs, drones? Like, there's sleep deprivation, there's false hope, there's malnourishment, there's watching people be murdered in front of you, having to pull bodies out of the rubble. Like,
yeah, that's awful. Yeah, I just can't really imagine at all. Really can't. So we're winding down, because I don't want to keep you forever, although I could continue talking about this.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
There is really a lot. I wanted to say thank you so much for carving out your busy schedule, because I know you're busy. And with your move and everything, just to come on here and spend a good hour with us and, let us know different things that's happened in your experience visiting 30 times in Egypt and your experience with the people of Gaza, Palestine, and just sharing your information. I know this was helpful. I've had lots of friends and people that were watching today that were wanting to know more about this. And my mom shared with her coworkers, because she's a teacher. They're passionate about children. So, but thank you very much. Is there anything else that you would like to add or share with us before we close out?
No, I just want to thank you for being willing to research and change your opinion when you're presented with facts and things that just make logical sense or that align with God and Jesus or align with what you believe biblically. I appreciate that you're willing to express that to the world, even though it causes a lot of judgment and, again, sometimes being shunned. I'm grateful for that, though. It shows me who I'm supposed to be walking with during this time. But I appreciate you doing that. And if there is anybody that's passionate about giving to people of Gaza or Palestine, please reach out to Ebony or to me. I assure you, I will make sure it gets into the right hands and it will truly help people either learn how to thrive and live in Egypt and or survive in Gaza, I will help get you resources for that. But if you want to help in any way, please don't think that your small effort doesn't make a difference, because just the things that Tina and I have done and the people we've connected with have helped hundreds of people survive during this genocide, or at least even mentally get by because they feel like someone actually cares. So if there's anything you're willing to do to help, please reach out at any time. And if you could at least just pray, that would still be enough.
Yes. So if I were to leave, once I'm done with the video and everything, if I were to leave, where did you want me to have them send you an email?
Yes, you can do it to info@healingwithexcellence.com if you'd like.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And or you can also give me, if you someone you personally know, you guys can call me, give them my cell, whatever you need. And if there's any ideas that you get on how to help, because again, I'm only one or two people, and you can get almost exhausted with creative ideas when you're in the thick of it. So if you have a creative idea on how to serve people in a different way, or if you need to ask me more clarifying questions on what people need the most support with, feel free to help me, because I'm sure that we could brainstorm together to strategize on how to serve more people and help them know that we really care. And just like how long it took to end slavery or the Holocaust itself, I do believe if everyday citizens keep making a difference, that we can help make a change in the future, just like we did in different movements throughout history. I do hate that it'll be too late for many, but at least it'll be something, and we can change the future.
Yes. Yes. And thank you for everyone who commented. Very good report, praying. Thank you so much. And then the other person and other people, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I will put the information in the comment section when I am done editing this video. And like I said earlier, thank you so much for joining us, Kim. And I'm pretty sure I'll be talking to you soon.
Yes, anytime. Thank you so much.
It's a trend for me.
Yeah, what is it? Have a beautiful day.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.